Test. Alex?
He can't speak.
Oh, that's right. Go ahead and promote him, then we'll see. Hey, Alex, we made you a panelist. Do you need to speak today, or are you good?
I think I should be good unless something FDT related comes up.
Okay. Okay, thanks. That's good.
Ready to go.
All right, so good evening, everybody. Randy Stovall here, Chairman of the BPAC. It is April 27, and we have interesting items on the agenda tonight. And I don't see anybody. The first thing we usually do is public comment. Do we have anybody for public comment? No, okay. And I guess that leads us to minutes. Minutes were emailed out to everybody. And the question is, do you have any corrections for the minutes that you need to give with Tina? And if so, please share those with her so she can get those corrected for us.
Dr. Stovall, will
Yes.
you just call to order everybody that's online and here so we have it for the record?
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. Let's go. Let's everybody say who they are. I said who I was. Morgan?
Morgan Gaynor?
Dan Funstemacher?
Thank you, Dan. And do you want the online people to say something?
Yes.
Okay. So please share with us if you're online.
Dan Michaels? John Bouchette?
Tania Gorman, Pasco MPO.
Alex Henry, FUT District 7.
Great.
Rob Kersey, Tyndale Oliver.
Okay. Anyone else?
Mr. Starkey's on.
All right. So that leads us then to our reports. And so take it away, Tina, please.
So that first one will be, actually we have the board items that we need to do first, I believe.
Right.
And let me go to those. We're using a new system for our BPAC agenda meetings, so that's why there was a little confusion about two different agendas. So we're working out those kinks, so to speak. So this was a trial for this first one. But the first MPO board action was with FDOT. It was a TIP program, it was a transportation improvement. It was that amendment for the wildlife corridors. I think these are the old ones.
Yeah, I think that.
Those are the minutes. Sorry, guys.
Right.
I'm reading the minutes from our last meeting. Here we go. So that first one is the Florida Commission of Transportation Advantage. That was a resolution. So I'm going to kind of just skip that one. The one that's kind of pertinent to you guys.
Okay.
Casey's going to talk just a little bit about. We had an update to our public participation plan due to the whole change of how we're doing public participation. Casey's just going to give a quick overview on some of those details to our public participation.
Hi, Casey Kersey with AECOM. And so what I wanted to make note for is these are minor revisions and amendments to the public participation plan adopted in 2018, really incorporating all of this hybrid virtual world and the social media that we're having to use and how we're interacting. So there's nothing major that you haven't seen before, but on the screen, if they've got the one page, is the most exciting part for this group is we're letting the public know that we're adding a new plan to public participation, which will be the active transportation plan. And once these revisions are adopted in June, then we can go forward with the plan itself. But we couldn't until we got it into the public participation plan. So that's what this slide is showing you. Open public comment period is from April 23rd to June 10th. And at that point, we'll let the board provide the recommendations to adopt, but it's pretty minor stuff to public participation plan. So we need an action today to approve that it's there for public comment, make sure that you know it. So that's what we need from the BPAC today, is approval that it is out there for public comment. I know it's a little bit backwards on timing just due to the meetings, but we do need your approval as an action item to put it out there.
So what we may need to do is save that till somebody comes who's on the way, because we don't have a quorum,
Okay,
but we will before the meeting's over. So
okay, perfect.
don't let us get away without it.
Thanks.
Thank you, Casey.
And the next one, which kind of almost suits that you guys probably have an interest in as well, is with Tyndall Oliver. We've developed a scope for development of our traffic count methodology as a task order. And I really wanted Robert from Tyndall Oliver just kind of explain to you guys what that scope entails, because it's something that's very important to this group as well. You're on, Robert.
Thanks, Tina. Rob Kersey with Tyndall Oliver. Pasco County through the MPO, or the MPO has worked in the past in developing a traffic count program. The traffic count program has no new counts have been taken through that program actively for the past several years. But traffic counts are very important because they do track growth. They track congestion. It's the way that we measure congestion against the system. It's also used by various groups or departments within the county, specifically planning and development and zoning approvals and development approvals. It's also used by public works, parks, and other departments that provide services to the citizens of Pasco County. So we were approached by the MPO to reinitiate the active traffic count program. In so doing, what we'll be doing is developing a methodology. We'll be collecting or taking a look at past traffic count locations that were taken by the MPO, also count sources and count programs that are provided by FDOT or any other agency. So we'll be pulling all those together into one location so we can source it for planning purposes for both the MPO and the county. Also with that, we will be developing a methodology because once we pull together all those counts, the historic count locations as well as new locations that need to be counted, which would be part of new developments or new roads that have been built over the past few years, we anticipate that there's going to be somewhere between 500 and 600 traffic count locations. It's quite an endeavor to count all those locations at once or every year. So therefore, our methodology will be actually to develop a program by which we identify a subset of that 500 or 600 locations, which will be counted on a rotating basis to where everything gets counted at least within probably every 3 to 5 years. Some of the higher growth areas will probably be every year. So we've got to develop that methodology and tracking. And in so doing, we will identify how many counts the MPO will need to fund each year to get the program up and running and to maintain it for the foreseeable future. So that's kind of what we're looking at. We're just in the early stages of that. So I can't give you real specifics, but that's what we're tasked to do, is actually come up with that plan and that program and to take a look at what are going to be the locations for traffic counts that the MPO will be tracking and counting in this new program and for this foreseeable future.
So I have one question for you. It's been a while since I've done anything with traffic counters, and are those now digital things that no one has to walk out there to read? That they can be read through the air somehow?
At this point, there are different. Our traffic count contractor has several different methods. They can do remote counts or they can do video counts. But when you're talking about a large program where you're doing anywhere between 100 to 200 counts a year, still the old-fashioned method of going out and putting out the counters in the tubes is the most cost-effective, and it's just as accurate as any type of a remote or automatic, any other type of visual count.
Very good. And this doesn't include our trail counts we're working to, or no?
No,
It
these
does
are.
not include the trail counts.
Okay, okay.
These are traffic
Great.
volumes, highway
Great,
volumes.
thank you.
Gunther. Randy, how are you?
So we need one more, Tina, for a quorum? One more still?
That's correct.
Okay.
I believe Joel's on his way, so.
Okay, great.
He's stuck in traffic, no punt there intended. so-
Easy to have happen to you.
That's why we need traffic counters.
As we do. Any other questions for Rob? Thank you. Great report.
Thank you.
All right.
I believe our next one, Dr. Stovall, is, the Northeast Hill, right, our regular reports.
Oh, okay, great. Perfect.
We're on our reports now, Northeast Hill. And that's actually, I'll give a little bit. So, the Northeast Hills, we're on the reports now. We're just gonna give you an update on the Northeast Hill study. We talked about this at the last meeting. So if you look in your packet, that map is actually from the Northeast Hill study that we did several years ago. I actually have Clayton that's gonna do a quick brief overview at some of the things that we're working on
Okay.
with the county to do some improvements currently and hopefully in the future. So Clayton?
All right. Hi, Clayton Watkins, Pasco County Project Management. Can you guys hear me okay?
You're very
Okay,
good.
Thank you. Thank you. So as of this fiscal year, project management does have some allotted money to do some safety improvement in the Northeast Hills area. So we've started to do a few projects in the area. We've added some share the road signs in some key areas. Recently working with DOT for some curve ahead pavement signs, just so people know where some of the rough curves are, the bad curves are out along in the area. And also recently Public Works has repaved Sharber Road. We still need to add some share the road signs and some sharrows to that once the asphalt gets to the point where we can put down the sign, the pavement markings. And then in addition, moving forward, we're trying to work, or we're coordinating with our Public Works Department as they go forward in doing repavement. We're going to go along and try to add areas where we get shoulders, where we know there's some bad accidents. We're looking at uphills and inside of curves mainly. So that is our quick update.
So just a question, when Sharber Road was repaved, did it get shoulder work too or no?
No, it did not. They had, by time we had started our coordination, they had already issued their NTP for their contractor to start. So
Okay.
we
All right.
unfortunately missed out on that one, but we've had some extensive coordination of late to make sure we jump on the plans as they move along in the fiscal years.
That's great.
Dr. Stovall, we did go out once, and Clay did reach out to us about that time, and that's when we found out Sharber Road was being done. We went out to Sharber Road, actually Casey and I did, and looked just to see if there's something that we could really do even that late in the game.
Right.
And there wasn't really anything that kind of stuck out that was worth delaying that project for. You know, we're gonna add some more signs. The share the road signs that have been put out there, which is several, are in really good locations. So they're at blind curves, at crests of hills. So there's some really good spots, and we're going to try to continue to do signage and those curved signs that Clay was talking about. And as new funding comes about and different resurfacing projects come about, then we're going to take advantage of those because we have the study where to put those things. Gunther, do you mind sharing with the group what you told me the other day, just so I can have it for record about that project or that you talked about, the dairy or the agricultural folks about working on the roads? Now, I know that was done several years ago, but you mind just sharing that story again, and that way I can have some information about it?
Not at all. Can you hear me? Is the red line on?
No, light's not on. There's a little button. There you go, you're on.
There you go. Okay. I think what you're referring to, Tina, is actually a program that Commissioner Starkey was aware of, that where the what is it, USDA, or what is the farm, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, has funding in place to improve rural roads, such as the roads that are frequented by cyclists a lot in north of San Antonio and Dade City, in order to facilitate farm equipment traffic on so-called substandard roads. And Commissioner Starkey made the BPAC aware of that type of funding through the USDA. However, basically sort of double dipping, not double dipping financially, but benefiting from the funding to improve the roads, to make it safer, for farm equipment that is often too wide for some of the substandard roads, as well as make it safer for traffic, whether it's just local residential traffic or, as in this case, a lot of cyclists. And just as a reminder, the reason why that is such a popular area, because of its scenery, its hills, and relatively low traffic, yet it's often very dangerous traffic. And but if you recall, when the city of Tampa made an effort to compete for, I don't know which Olympics, 1900 something or 2012 or whatever, that area was designated to be the venue for the road cycling competitions. That's how high a profile area that is. And so it was just a great attempt by Commissioner Starkey to look for funding to improve those roads. Where the effort has gone, frankly, I cannot recall, but maybe it's worth picking that up again, as we certainly having more folks on the road with whatever vehicles.
Hey, this is Catherine.
Hey.
Hey, I remember that, but I also remember being up at the University of Florida. Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Very well.
Yeah. I remember being up at the University of Florida and having a presentation from the guys at DOT that are up at University of Florida, and they said there's money there at that program that's, like we have Cutter at USF. They have some kind of program up at Florida, which I think revolves around safety. And I believe that's the money that Hernando County used to widen their shoulders on that, I think it's Spring Lake. They used that money from University of Florida. So that's another source that we could go after.
It'd be nice to have that, because that study that we're talking about is full of places that are identified that need shoulders. So,
yeah.
Yep.
Well, and that's why I asked, Gunther mentioned that in the meeting that we were at, talking about some different, the overlay, and that came up, and I just thought it'd be a good topic of discussion since we're talking about this. And one of the things the active transportation plan eventually will do is look at funding sources. So I wanted to have a record of that so we can look and see at some different funding sources. And I know Steve Diaz really well at Hernando, so I can tap into him and see where that money came from for Hernando County as well. So thank you.
Hey guys, can I ask a question? Where is the raise hand button on this? That's why I had to wave like that. I usually, in a lot of these meetings, there's a wave hand or raise a hand.
It's usually right, isn't it? Down low?
It's very,
it.
very bottom where it says participants and attendees. At the very bottom, it's really, really small on my screen. I mean, it's tiny.
I see where all the panelists are. Well, I don't know. I don't have that on mine. So I'll just have to go like this.
Well, we're lucky that you participate with us, so thank you for that. All right.
Any other questions for Clay? Thank you, Clay, so much.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Debbie, you have a question?
Hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I just want now, he's gone now, but I just wanted to point out that that area around San Antonio is also extremely popular with the runners, but it's so dangerous that, like for my group, I would never take them out there. But so I'm just happy to hear you all talking about it.
Debbie, do y'all use some of the same routes, and you have that map? Do y'all use some of the same routes the cyclists use, or is there a preferred route that runners use?
We use several different routes, different runners and different groups use different routes, but that's known as being basically in this tri-county area, the best place to run, except my group always goes over and runs on the Clearwater bridges because since I feel like I have a big liability, and I feel like right now it's too dangerous to run anywhere in that area. So anything that's done to improve those roads would make it a lot safer for us too. Because when you put the cyclists out there on the same roads and the runners, then having no shoulder is even more dangerous.
Right.
Is Trilby Road one of the popular spots too for runners as well? Because I know it's a big one for cyclists among many other locations out there, but
I
is
don't
Trilby?
think I'm in my car right now, so I can't see my map, but because I have several maps of the different ones different running clubs use. My club doesn't use that because, like I say, it's just too dangerous. We haven't been out there in a couple of years because we just got kind of scared.
Well, thank you.
There wouldn't be very much room on a weekend. No. All right.
All right, moving on.
Thank you, Clayton.
The next one is the list of priority projects, Dr. Stovall. So the old list, last year's list, I shouldn't use the word old, last year's list is in your packet. So the beginning of May, we're going to have public notice. Our new list is going to be totally different than the old list. It's going to be much cleaner, a lot easier for the read. We're going to have every project in Pasco County that's programmed on this list so you can actually see everything that's being done. And then we're going to have all the projects that we're going to have listing that we are trying to get funding for. And that's how we're going to kind of go from here on the way out is we're going to clean up that list. We're going to have everything on there that is funded. In those phases, again, there's quite the length of phases that we have to go through for a project to be completely done, from feasibility to design, build, and all those things. So we'll have that new list. So I wanted to bring out the old list. It's going to be last year's list. The new list is going to be totally different than this one. It will go public the first week of May for you guys to provide comments. I will send everybody an email when you can look at that list and look at projects and provide comments, okay? But it's going to be totally different this year than it has been in the past. So, any questions? We've been going over a lot of these projects already from meeting to meeting, so we're going to really clean this up and have a little bit better understanding what progress or what process these projects are in.
I think that's a great improvement. When you have multiple lists, it's hard to know what's not on the list you're looking at, so that's great. Thank you.
Well, I've been working on this list, and I'm surprised how many projects are in Pasco County. It's incredible. So it's going to be really, there's a lot of lighting projects. So it's going to be really, you guys going to be really nice to see everything that's happening out there. And then we'll see what other projects need to be funded. And that gives you a little bit better idea how to comment on those projects as well.
Great.
Get lost for the traffic counters next? now?
Yes, traffic counters next.
Okay. I'm getting used to this new agenda layout. So I'm glad to just do agendas. So we finally get to see the data that we got from our non-motorized counters that were put out for 2 weeks in February. So that's what is here. So we had those 5 locations. And then this is pretty much the raw data, but I wanted everybody to see what came out of those counters. So there's 2 sheets for each counter, so to speak. There was a tube counter, the 2 tube counters, which kind of give a better count for cyclists. And then there's an infrared counter as well. So you can kind of get all different modes by using those 2 types of counters. So you had 2 sheets for each one. The first one on there is, I believe it says Starkey Trail at Trinity Boulevard. That was our first counter. That was the counter the furthest south. That's the closest one to Pinellas County, and that's kind of why we wanted to put that one there. So those are our numbers. Something to note that I started doing, at the bottom of that sheet, I started putting notes if it rained, if it was cold. In fact, I have a sheet in there that has the temperatures for those days, because you want to see, there was a reason why there was 3 people on Wednesday, February 10th, that there's normally 20 or 30 people. So, it probably rained that day. So there's some notes in there, but these are all 5 of them. Good news is you don't see much happening in the middle of the night. One of the good reasons about counters, and it's actually one of the reasons why I used counters with Hillsborough County years ago, people say, oh, there's people on the trail all times of the night. Well, these prove if that's true or not. So, and this is at Trinity, which is off a major road. But those are the counts at Trinity. Again, that next bar graph kind of shows you your average week. Again, this was for 2 weeks in the winter and Super Bowl, by the way. So not the best of time to get counts, but it's it was kind of free for us, so we took advantage of it. And hopefully, again, the main purpose of this is for us to get our own counters and put them out, and for maybe hopefully the DOT to help fund those as well. The second location is, again, there's 2 for each one. The next location was just north of 54, just south of the Starkey Market on the Starkey Gap Trail. I wanted to get a count south of 54, and I wanted to count just north of 54 to kind of see if there was a big difference between numbers of crossing 54 more than anything. So when we get really good, we can kind of compare these numbers and see, kind of read between the lines, how many people maybe are or aren't crossing 54 as well. So that's the second one. And then that next one that we have is in Starkey Wilderness Park. This counter was just past the fork, so we got everybody coming into Starkey Wilderness Park. As you know, there's a road that comes into Starkey Wilderness Park, and then there's their trail. So some cyclists use the road, some people use the trail. So we put the counter where we would hit everybody coming into Starkey Wilderness Park. One of our highest counts is in Starkey Wilderness Park, if you look at that. But you can kind of see the numbers for that one as well. And then that next one was on Suncoast Trail, just when you come out of Starkey Wilderness Park and you make a little bit of a north turn. I wanted something to the north. So this one was put right there so we can kind of track people on Suncoast Trail and out of Starkey Wilderness Park as well. So that's those counts, one of our higher counts as well, because you're capturing some people leaving Starkey Wilderness Park and on the Suncoast Trail. And then that last one, I put north of 52, because I was really curious to see how many people cross 52 on the Suncoast Trail. So we can compare those numbers from that Suncoast Trail at Wilderness, Starkey Wilderness, and 52, and we maybe see how many people do actually cross 52 from that 54 origin. So those are those numbers. You have them now to kind of look at. And then that last page, I kind of cheated and put weather on it you know, if it was rain or if it was really cold, to kind of compare numbers to see if there was a drastic change on those. So any questions? They're fun to read. At some point, I'm doing a presentation with DOT next week to several people that want to use non-motorized counters. So hopefully this is something that we're going to have permanently in the near future. Find the funding or through DOT and kind of go from there. I think all 5 of these locations have really good potential. I don't know if we can afford 5 counters. They're not the cheapest, and they're pretty time consuming to go out and draw the data out. But I think all 5 locations could be good locations for the future for what we call long-term counters as well. I would love to have them everywhere.
Tina, isn't there another counter on the trail just north of 54 at the Suncoast?
Yeah.
So that is a long-term counter that DOT's put in. It's not functional just yet. Something to do with contracting. As soon as that gets up and live, it'll be about the time that has to be moved for the overpass. But as soon as that gets up and live, we'll start being able to have those numbers as well. So, but yeah, that is a long-term counter. It's called a street light counter, solar powered, so it has its own solar power. But that is a long-term counter at that location.
Is it correct that, I mean, just from what I just saw, the data, that there's a lot more people on Saturday than Sunday?
Yes.
Look that way.
And if I remember right, those Sundays, the weather was awful. So to get a really good idea of formula, there's formulas that you want to use with most of these anyway, is, again, there are 2 counters, infrared. So you come up with a formula based on really watching people and how many people do go through it, because that's raw data. So there's actually, you might do a multiple number or divide by a number to get a true idea of what's coming through. But the weather really affects, and that's why I put notes and have that sheet in there, because the weather was awful. And one of those Sundays was Super Bowl Sunday, by the way. So, and that, it rained horrible. There was a storm that morning. So a lot of those have that effect. There's usually 2 different types of users on Saturday and Sunday. Saturdays sometimes more of your family, and then Sundays more of other groups. So usually Saturday and Sunday do have a different trend in how they count, and location too. Good question.
All right, more to come. We're looking forward to that. You know, the problem is a little bit of data just really makes you want more. That's the problem. All right, you got some crash data to talk about?
Here we go. You guys are our test dummies. Yeah, here we go. So where do I need to be at?
Oh.
Right here? Okay.
Jeez.
So are we going to try to do this live? Yeah. Do you want me to, or you want to come over here? Let me do my intro and then we'll play with it. So this is Signal 4. So Signal 4, this dashboard here is called Signal 4 Analytics. This dashboard is actually available to anybody to pull up. So, and it's basically, it'll give you state of Florida. You can drill down some basic information on it, and I'll show you that in a minute. But then you can also log in as well, and then I can really look at crash types and kind of go from there. Dan, I'm sure you've played with this and you have the nicer version of it being law enforcement. So, but what I'm going to show you, what's really interesting about this once we start drilling down, and I'll show you some, go ahead, Patty. So go down, so anybody can go to this dashboard right here. So see where it says state of Florida? Go up there and hit there and just put Pasco in. Look at you, there you go. So, and then if you go across, it has all law enforcement agencies want to do that. So that next drop down, all emphasis area, is probably one that you want to do. So go back to all emphasis right there, drop to there you go. So now if we want to go down to, and you can go down to bicycle pedestrians here, there they are. And then go ahead and just leave fatal and serious and then refresh. Then you're going to have everything for 2021 44 serious, 95 total crashes, 7 fatalities, okay? If you go to the right, you can see age groups. You can also see day of the week. This is the one that catches me the most, you guys. Look at day of the week and fatalities. They all happen on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Is that weird or what? I just think that's, so you would think it wouldn't be a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Now, reminder, these are bike ped. There's no, until I go and look at each crash, there's no way of knowing which one's a bicyclist and which one's a pedestrian at this level here. So, but you can see the times. Kind of surprised at the times too. You think everything happens at night? According to that, it's not. It's later in the day, but look, midday too.
Yeah.
So, your fatalities kind of stand out there, but that anybody can look at that and get an idea. Again, that's available for everybody there. And then, do we want to try this? So you guys are going to be my guinea pigs because I'm going to do a live demo here for you guys so we can try it with the feature. So. So why we want to do this, if I can see what mistakes cyclists and pedestrians are doing, then hopefully I can do a countermeasure, a safety, something to kind of maybe change that behavior. Changing behavior is really hard, especially when it comes to car drivers. But one of the newest trends that seems to be happening is not changing behavior, but how can I make the road better, our paths better, our intersections better, that when that person makes that mistake, especially bike ped, they can survive it. That's a different way of thinking when it comes to countermeasures and safety. But we know with starting with Vision Zero in the last few years, it's always about changing behavior. And I've been in this business a long time. Let's change behavior. You guys and Dan Dr. Sargent can kind of help. It's really hard to change the behavior of a 17-year-old male, you guys. It's really hard to change the behavior of a 40-year-old male that's been driving a car for 20 plus years. It's really hard, and we had a fatality a year ago. Young man darts across the street, time change. So being a 16, 17-year-old boy, how can I make some changes to help that person survive that mistake when they do make it? So that's why we look at crashes to try to figure out, hey, will lighting on Moon Lake Road help that young man survive from darting across the road? Okay, just an example, okay? So that's where we really drill down. Lane departure is a big one. Rear ending is a big one. And I'm assuming with rear ending that it's a speed issue and people stopping at a light and then they run into the back of each other. So I'm gonna kind of try to log in here and see if this works for you guys. You're on the wrong little person. Oh, okay. Oh, I am on the wrong person. Sorry, I'm not used to this screen. Sorry. Thank you. And I have some weird password. So any questions while I log in, you guys?
Put your password in.
Thank you so much. I was going to ask you that because I don't know what happens when I type it in. I don't know if it's encrypted or not. So the good news is I did it right the first time. So what we get here is I can actually come in here and ask exactly specific drill down crash types. So again, if I want to use Pasco County, I'm just going to go to Pasco County. Someone give me an example.
You said there was one in Durham Grand Bondo. Can you look that up?
Yes. So I'm just going to put in, because it was, so I'm going to go ahead and put, so I'm just going to do fatality and serious injury here, just to show you some ideas of how this works. And then I'm going to go to, here we go. So I'm just going to do bicyclists on this one. And then we're going to go. So one of the advantages of here is I can really start going in, and this is it, I believe, right here. And the ironic thing is it's on Sharber Road and at Darby. So what happens is I can actually, so the color kind of gives me an idea of it was a serious injury. Okay. And it also, I can just go right to this. And then this is where my crash report is.
Whoa. Oh, yeah.
So legal document as close as I can tell you guys. So this can't be shared, but it gives me the information that the report was done at the crash scene. Sergeant, if you can add anything that I mess up, please do, or especially if I say something wrong. But I look at the time, this one was at 1:59 p.m. On that Sunday. This was the Grand Fondue Day in the San Antonio area. So if I scroll down, it gives me light conditions, weather conditions, dry, and I'll go down and start looking at what really is important as far as I'm concerned. When I start reading through here, I'm going to scroll through the information for privacy purposes. This tells me this is a narrative of what happened at that crash, okay? Just to give you a hint, and I'm a picture person, there's usually a diagram of the crash as well. But this information helps me understand what behavior, these are not accidents, they're crashes, you guys. So things happen, were done wrong, probably on both sides, the driver and the cyclist, that we can look at to see how to prevent these from happening or lessening the type of injury as well. So just to give you an idea, I mean, you can spend a lot of time. This one's kind of interesting because there was a lot of quotes in here in this narrative, which is kind of really good. The classic one I never saw, which you hear a lot by the driver. And then they also talked about the cyclist yelling to kind of get their attention as well. But this is just one report out of many. And when you start looking at pedestrians quite a bit, and I'll show you I'll compare your pedestrians. These are all cyclists here. So I'm just gonna go in here and pull up the same dates for pedestrians, just so you can see the comparison of bike to ped. And I'm going to do fatality and serious injury again. And then I'm just going to pick pedestrian this time. So this last one we had, I didn't get the number off the top of it, but let's go look at pedestrians and you'll be able to see quite the difference. Of course, I didn't put Pasco. Let me do Pasco. And you can, just looking at this, guys, you can see the major metropolitan areas as well. So I'm gonna go back and do a one. So we know this works, Patty. This is pretty cool. So we're gonna pull up those pads. Fatality on 19. So, and what we can do actually is start really doing point modes with these as well. 2 fatalities in just those 4 months, almost 5 months when it comes to pedestrians. So do you see this is what's really important, you guys. These are all pedestrians, but notice how we had 3 right in this one area, okay? We all recognize where that's at. That's where 75 and 54 is. So that's something I'll look at and wonder, is there something going on here that we can do to kind of prevent these crashes from happening? And that's where you have to really go in and look at the crash and see the behavior of the pedestrian and the behavior of the driver to kind of see what's going on. So they're both on this side. This one's on a side street, but that gives you an idea.
But one's actually.
I think that might be a shopping center.
Yeah,
That might be a shopping center parking lot.
Parking lots are the most dangerous place to walk, as you know.
That's right in front of public.
Yeah.
So,
Actually, it's not public, so it's a liquor store.
that might be explained that one right
That's
there.
That's ABC Liquor on that corner. Not that I would know, of course.
But, so, you know, if we want to we start looking at lane departures, DOT and the traffic safety team. We started looking at lane departures. That's where those curve decals started coming into play. We're starting to use speed feedback signs. So we might want to look at where we've got rear ending and some major intersections. So we might want to put some speed detection signs further back to slow people before they get to that major intersection. But that just gives you a little bit of idea.
Scroll that over to the east a little bit, because I saw one.
This fatality down here.
Yeah, in Zephyr Hills.
We're starting to look at Zephyr Hills quite a bit, Dr. Stovall, for PEDs.
Wow.
I haven't been able to get a common denominator just yet.
Yeah, I'm not sure where that is.
I think I read this one already too, by the way. There've been quite a few in parking lots in Zephyr Hills too.
Palm Avenue Drive. That sounds like it's right at the entrance to a mobile home park.
Good point. So I'm just gonna go down to this. So they were investigating, so, interesting.
Yeah, that's not an area that has a lot of traffic, so
That almost looks like a dart out.
yeah, and probably neither the pedestrian nor the driver ever thought there'd be another one there to worry about.
Was in the roadway,
No.
non-motor vehicle. Well, so for privacy reasons, I'm gonna scoot out of here pretty quick.
Yeah, we're not allowed to see those crash reports
Correct.
typically.
But that dashboard, you can pull up and get trends and bike ped on that dashboard. Anybody can pull up Signal 4.
So you can pull up Signal 4, but you can't actually see the content of the crash reports if you're doing it publicly.
Yeah, specific. And then law enforcement has a very detailed specific login that they can use for Signal 4. We're able just to look at it for safety purposes and county measures more than anything as well.
Repeat, and we're looking for repeat issues.
Right.
So we can start doing something about it.
Yeah.
Example, we've been looking at Ridge Road, Little and Ridge quite a bit and trying to see kind of what's the behavior that's consistent. And believe it or not, it's like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. There seems to be a higher number. So we're trying to figure out if the school has something to do with that, the kids getting out of school, or, you know, what causes that behavior to be that really high peak time in the middle of the afternoon that causes it. It might be a certain bus that gets off at that time. But again, that's what we're trying to start using Signal 4 for. Thank you, Kevin. Yes.
It's a pretty amazing tool.
I've actually tried to pull mine up in a while.
I had issues getting it up last week. I was kind of concerned. They were probably updating something. Again, for us to work on educating and engaging and behavior and surviving bad behavior, we have to know what mistakes people make or the behavior they do that we can hopefully, again, some of it we're not going to change. Again, I've been doing this a long time. We can try to change those and educate those that want to be educated. But again, that certain age group that wants to dart across the road, how can we help them survive that behavior? So that takes time and looking at things to kind of go there. And again, cost. At the end of the day, is it, design engineering is very expensive. So we have to look at those things long term. Any questions?
I have something. Something came to mind, and I'm not sure if anybody has this data, but it's talking about safety. There was a major study. It's been 2 or 3 years, I guess, maybe longer, about Highway 19 in Pasco County. And I know many of us here went to these workshops and talked about it, et cetera. And so FDOT, I know, came up with a plan to do some things, but I don't know that we ever had a report that told us what those things were. So that'd be useful if you could come up with that at some point, I think.
Well, Alex is on the line. I know there's been several lighting projects that DOT has done and the county has done along 19. And we have several new lighting projects that are being done on 54 and some on 19. I'm going to actually have those in our new list of priority projects. So you get to finally see some of these things as well. They were doing some intersection crosswalk improvements too. Alex, can you help with that at all?
That may bring it back. As part of the tip update for this year, I've been helping Tina and Tania and Carl, and we're going to have a little synopsis of those safety measures that is required for the tip. So we're actually working on that with Deborah Mincat, so we'll have a pretty good handle on what the improvements were, at least for the last year and a half going back.
Okay.
Pricing of it.
Good.
That's happening right now.
Great. Thank you for that. Seems like so often we talk about things and we don't ever find out if anything happened,
Because they get going, they're funded, they get done, and we don't come back to it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
The new tips are requiring you to itemize a lot of that and make that evidence.
Oh, good.
So
Good.
Be a real good way to sort of tell the fact that lots does get done. We just don't always hear about it.
Right. That's great. Well, we're usually at the very beginning of something, and that's just kind of the way it is. So.
Well, we're actually really trying to change that.
Yeah.
So again, that's the whole purpose of us reformatting our list of priority projects.
Good.
You see what's on there to be done, and then they disappear and you don't know what's happened to them. You're
Right.
going to actually see the progress of those projects. Lighting, everything. I mean, there's a complete streets at Little and 54 I didn't know about. So there's a lot of good information on there that now you'll be able to see, and hopefully we can add to as well.
Great. So the other thing I'm thinking here, particularly about this dashboard you just showed us, I know that MPO has somebody from each of the cities, but this data would be great for the city planners.
So the reason why we tested on you guys to do it live is we're gonna have it to all our committees as well to kind of start showing it to them as well. So
that's great. All right, so we still do not have a quorum, I'm sorry to say. We could all express our support for that effort if that helps.
That's great. And it's just due to the cycle of it, it's out there now.
Okay.
And since public can get to it, the PPP requires a 45-day comment period. So
Okay.
that's why it goes out so soon, and we couldn't wait for the next cycle to start in the next MPO board meeting. Because any amendment to it takes a 45-day comment period on there. So
sounds good.
Nothing new. And next year, the MPO will have to do a full major update to the PPP and kind of incorporate all our new world of social media, hybrid virtual, and you'll see that come back to you as a full new document.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, Tina.
So only actually 3 things left. just wanted to see, we had our voting last
Right.
BPAC meeting. So this is the updated membership
Okay.
based on what voting we had last meeting.
Right.
Just double check it. I left Corey and Lisa Burke on there to the far side, you guys, just so I have them for past reference for me that they were on the committee.
Okay.
Especially since we moved dates around and everybody kind of started at the same time. But let me know if there's any mistakes on there, and then we'll kind of just move forward with this. I keep trying to figure out a health education consultant. So if anybody can help me with anybody, even hospital or anybody that might be interested in this group, health-wise, just let me know, and we'll kind of go from there as well. And appreciate everybody working through the election last meeting as well.
So I have a comment and a question. I think the list has my name spelled incorrectly. There's 2 L's in my name, my last name. I think the list had 1 L.
Okay.
The other question I have, does this have to now get presented at NPO for their approval, or it's just a reported item?
It's a recorded on.
Okay. Very good.
Looks like 2 L's there. I'm looking on the grid.
Oh, well, I was looking at another one today.
Yeah, it might somewhere. It might have been on.
It may have been on the minutes, maybe on the minutes.
Minutes or-
And I'm not looking at that right now, so.
Yeah. Well, that's not the stuff.
All right, no problem. And so, you want to talk about a workshop?
Yes, sir. And as for the discussion, because we're still waiting to find out what our hybrid virtual meeting world's gonna look like in the next.
So we should actually know a little bit better on Tuesday.
That's what I was hoping.
Okay, okay.
So first thought though is I would like to do a workshop, because these meetings we cram so much in the time and we all want to get home in the evening. It's been a long day for all of us. I wanted a Saturday where we can kind of just chat and discuss a lot of the things that we discussed today. What projects, how do we find out what projects have been done, what kind of phase they are? Kind of what we do in our every meeting. That gives us a strategy and goals, objectives, how we want to proceed with our meetings every 2 months. And if we want to add them back to every month, or maybe summer off, like July, that's where you have that discussion as a group where you not feel like you're time certain, and have an open discussion about how the meeting and bylaws and format is. I threw out a Saturday at 11 to 1. That gives people time to get up and ride or whatever they want and still be home. So just a discussion. We can email back and forth and see if we don't have to be here for the hybrid virtual. That would be very nice, because we can have a different version of meeting somewhere else. So think about it. Yay, I hate the idea, whatever. Just let me know. I'm a big person on doing a strategy session about once every 2 years, just to kind of get us focused and going in the right direction as a group, especially after we just had an election. The conversation we had gone through about Northeast Hills, about some other options funding, that's a good place where we can start throwing those things out, and I can make notes and kind of go from there as well. But just think about it. Is it a good idea, a bad idea? I know Corey said that's kind of a tough weekend. Every weekend's going to be tough, you guys. But I try to do it before Memorial, weekend, and then after Memorial, the world just changes because of school and everything else. So just a thought, if you want to just email me and say, hey, I kind of like the idea, we can start talking about topics as well. But just some thoughts on having a strategy section or workshop for the group. It might be a good chance to bring people in that might become members of the committee or just involved. I have a list of about 30 people that get our agenda every month. I'd like to invite them and kind of as well. Jeff from the bike. There's several bike shops on that group as well. So.
Sounds like a good idea. We can just find a day and a time, and hopefully where we can all sit around the same table. That'd be great. So,
And the group that's here, Gunther, does that sound good? Are you in town that weekend, or you know?
On, what was the date again, May?
Second.
May 22nd?
That's before Memorial Day.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what the hope was.
I'm not in control of my calendar yet, but I might, if I am, yeah.
So look at your dates, see if
Yeah.
it works. Again, I'm not gonna take Saturdays up if a good number of people can't show up.
Yeah.
It's not
Right.
fair
Right.
to the other folks as well, so. All right, last but not least is May is National Bicycle Month.
right?
Hopefully you guys will jump on Love the Ride, Tampa Bay Bike Walk, and join the challenge. Don't have to ride a lot, just get on your bike. There's lots of prizes. We did the March one as our local one, but May is National Bike Month, so hop on there. It's really fun to watch people, and the different categories that are on there. So hop on Love the Ride and get out there in end of April and May and get a few miles in and take advantage of what we have here in Pasco County.
All right. So does anybody have anything else you want to share?
Yes.
Okay, please.
As most of us may know, the Swamp Club, the mountain bike club, has had permission from, I assume, County Parks and Rec, or maybe SwiftMud, to cut mountain bike trails into Starkey Park, which I think has been very successful and popular. And what I find is there's a lack of access to the mountain bike trails, in the sense that it's only like majority of the park is only accessible from the west side off of Starkey Boulevard, and unless you ride into the park from the east side, which for road cyclists is not a problem, because road cycling is fairly fast and easy, but they're not there to mountain bike and take advantage of the wonderful single trails. Whereas for the mountain bikers, for a lot of them, they have a tough time getting to the park because it's on the very west side. And I'm wondering if and how we could put forward a motion to ask permission for the Swamp Club to be able to access the trail just a half a mile or mile, I think it's less than a mile north of 54 off the Suncoast Trail. In other words, of the southeast corner of the park, just off the paved Suncoast Trail. And because that would be you have a trailhead on 54 and the Suncoast, and it's probably a half a mile ride up the Suncoast Parkway Trail, and then you just make a left and you're in the park. And as opposed to go another 4.5 miles to the official wilderness trail, the paved trail, and then find your way for another 5 miles. So by that time, the majority of people are worn out on a mountain bike on a paved road. So, and so I think it would be simply a very user-friendly access point. And hence my question: how could we, if we agreed to put that in a forward motion?
So Gunther, send me an email with where you're exactly talking about, and that way I know which players to kind of approach how that access would happen. Again, if it's SwiftMud, it would have to be SwiftMud. If it's Tampa Bay Water, so send me the location that you're talking about accessing and kind of that route you were telling about, and then I can look into who land managers would be involved with that as well. If it's just a connection, that's really, if I know where you're talking about, there are no mountain bike trails at that location, so they'll be accessing fire break roads to get to the mountain bike trail, because I've rented them too. So give me that location and I can kind of start looking at who the land managers are that would be involved with that.
Okay, I will do that. I mean, in principle, the approval process should be similar to the one that we had to go through when the Swamp Club got approval, I believe, from Parks and Rec, and maybe SwiftMud was involved, I'm not sure. And obviously,
that was Colleen Crock. Is she still there? We had to really work with Colleen.
She's retired.
And Dave Moore was helpful, and he's gone. But I do remember when we did our first ride on that trail, we had the head of SwiftMud out. I think it's Brian, and he rode with us. But so Colleen retired. Okay. Well.
Yes.
Yeah, it's definitely SwiftMud. It's not Tampa Bay Water that we have to talk to, and the county.
What's Tower Road?
yeah.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah, it's basically, Tina, it's just at the Tower Road, future Tower Road crossing.
Right.
Well, I think we already have permission to have a couple entrances into the park there, right, Tina? Along Tower?
So the only access currently that is legal is that one from Starkey Ranch that's right there. So there's nothing really open just yet. So that's why we have to just see.
Because I'm pretty sure we had negotiated some other entrances into the park along that road. So I don't know if
Yeah, and that's why once Gunther kind of,
SwiftMud will let you ride back.
once I verify exact locations, I can figure out who the right land managers are to get that permission.
We had a meeting a couple years ago, Gunther. It was were you there with the head of the Swamp Club, the architect or engineer? And do you remember that meeting we had?
I was not part of the meeting.
Oh, okay. Then Trey was there, and we were talking about trying to get more trails in the park. Actually, that might be when we got the third trail. Now that I think about it, but we did talk about getting from the tower over to the northern part of the park, and talked about that bridge. Yeah, so I'll maybe Trey will remember. But Gunther, do you know the swamp guy that I'm talking about?
No.
Well, who's the really tall guy that used to be the head of the Swamp Club?
I know who you mean. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, Trey will know. I'll bring it up with Trey and see if I can jog his memory, Tina, about what we discussed in that meeting.
Yeah, and swamp doesn't need to be actually part of this if we're using what is existing already, which is what you're doing is that fire break road that I know where you're talking about. So it's just a connection. It's actually fire break roads that connect to Starkey and the mountain bike trails as well. So,
well, I mean, I don't have the layout in my head, but I think you probably would have to. The Swamp Club did all the volunteer work to cut the existing trails on the west side, and in order to get that kicked off, once you have permission, you probably have to cut a little bit of trails in order to get to the fire break roads, or maybe better yet, to no. Okay, then all you need is permission to.
Tina's like, yeah, I've been on that trail.
Okay.
I've driven on those.
no, good though. Good. So anything else?
Well, the other thing is, I mean, a few years ago, and I don't know whether that's beating a dead horse, we talked about access from Starkey Ranch into the park, and including using the old bridge, or the access road coming to the old bridge. Yeah. And okay. And I think I remember at the time there was an argument made that the wetland at the river is too wide, so the bridge would be too costly to renovate the bridge. I don't know whether that I haven't heard much since then, whether that plan got abandoned, because that's a wonderful access to the river and across the river and into the park, period. So,
Parks is, and I can have them address this at our next meeting. They are working on that agreement at those two access points from Starkey Ranch into Starkey Wilderness Park. One very close to where that Publix is, to the back there, and then there's one where you're talking about where the old bridge is that would need a new structure, some type of structure to cross the river there.
The bridge is pretty sketchy.
yeah.
I've been out there.
Yeah, and last but not least, perhaps we made an effort, or somebody made an effort to inquire about the access from the trail, the Suncoast Trail, just north of 54, through the development that has a gate there and is supposed to let people in off the trail because it's a publicly funded community, a CDD community, yet they're gating themselves off. And it's a sort of a natural access point to the publics, so you don't have to go out on 54 where there's currently no sidewalk on that stretch from 54 to that shopping center to the west of the Suncoast on the north side.
Hey, Michael, we're going to let you give us a little history on that gate at Suncoast and the preserve, if you can. We've been working on this thing for a while.
He is a panelist.
Michael? So we've been working on that, finding out who, what, when, where with that gate, and have not been able to find out much about who has the combo to that lock. And I'm talking about developer-wise, park-wise, turnpike-wise.
Oh, no, it's the CDD, and they won't even let the apartments use it.
Really?
Commissioner, do you have a contact name for that group?
At DR
by any
Horton?
chance?
I
So,
can get one from
okay.
Frank, but that's DR Horton, the developer.
Right.
Yeah.
If you can get a name that I can talk to
Sure.
and kind of go from there. Okay, because I tried to talk to the land management company, which is no good.
That's DR Horton. Oh, you mean Mr.
Yeah, the CDC, the management company, yeah.
Yeah. What, they wouldn't answer you?
Nope.
Oh, how rude.
Like the wagons.
A saga.
Well,
You can't go from Suncoast into Preserve, and you can't go from the Preserve to the Suncoast, so it's totally useless from both sides.
Yeah. So residents can't even, like people who own freestanding homes can't do it either?
Really?
nobody knows the
So
combination,
what's
is
the
what you're
point?
saying. So I guess somebody could just cut the lock and then we'd see what happens. Some enterprising bike rider could just cut that lock, right? All right, anything else? Interesting discussions. And you gotta keep asking, Gunter, that's the point here. Gotta just keep bringing it up. Just like everything else. Yep.
One day.
All right, well, would you like me to use the magic tool here?
Yeah, take
All right, so, I think we're adjourned at 6:55. Thank you.